Welcome to NuttieBuddie Sports.
Welcome back, everybody, to NuttieBuddie Sports. And on today's clip, what me and my brother, Erik, are going to do is we are going to do the top 3 things each of us learned in Week 14 of the NFL. And we're going to start with Erik. Erik, what's the first thing you learned in Week 14 of the NFL?
I'm going to start with the Thursday night game and saying that the Raiders, which we know are playing bad, but they're quite a terrible football team right now. I mean, the fact that they lost to a 98-yard drive by a quarterback who just started this offense less than 48 hours before that, like he was in a whole different offense, and yet you still lost. Like gave up a 98-yard drive, and I might be a little biased because I want that pick to be higher for the Lions, but still,
Yeah.
how do you lose to that? That doesn't make any sense.
No, that's a good one. I would say if I learned something from the Raiders, I would just say maybe not their terrible team, but they are the most fickle team in the NFL. Like ditzy. Like like we all had like ditzy friends growing up, and they're fun to hang out with sometimes, but sometimes they do things and you're like, boom, what are you doing that for? Right. And It's like things go over their head. That's the sort of what the Raiders remind me of. Is like, sometimes it's like, wow, I can't believe how good the Raiders are. And then sometimes you're like, what did you just allow? I like that one though. The Raiders, I don't know how they lost to Baker Mayfield, but good for Baker. Good for Baker.
Yeah, good for Baker. Honestly, good for Baker. I'm hoping. Well, if he was signed by any other team, I would probably hope for success. Again, I'm biased right now. I want the Lions to have a higher draft pick. But I do. I'm glad he had success because I just like I always root for guys who get cut that isn't cut by my team.
Fair.
So I kind of hope he does well, but still, how 98 yards in under 2 minutes, and you met the whole team 48 hours ago. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Good for him. I like that one. Okay, my first one, I think the 49ers are okay. I think they're okay with Purdy. No, I mean, like, as far as like Super Bowl contention. So one of the big stats I brought out last week in the podcast that I did, and by the way, if you're listening to this the first time, go check out our NuttieBuddie podcast. We review the week every week of football, and we talk about the great, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But this was that Jimmy Garoppolo with the Niners, without Jimmy Garoppolo, that is, the 49ers without Jimmy G was 8-27 without Jimmy G. So it just showed like the Niners struggle at the QB position without Jimmy G there. So that's been history. But it looks like the defense is strong enough and their skilled players are strong enough to carry whatever quarterback's back there right now. So Debo got injured, but you still have Ayuk, Kittle, and McCaffrey, as long as McCaffrey can stay healthy. And the NFC is not a strong conference. I like the Eagles and the Cowboys, but I don't think they're so much better than the Niners that they're like on another tier. So I think the first thing I'm going to say I learned is I think the 49ers are going to be okay.
Well, and on that note, it's like, how bad is Trey Lance? That's what I want to know with the Niners. Like, how bad is Trey Lance truly? Because here's Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. And I'm a Bucs fan. I admit it. I am very depressed about how good he looked.
Yep.
And how bad my defense looked against him. And it's just like, okay, here's Mr. Irrelevant in the draft. Nobody wanted him. They just drafted him just because, whatever, throwing a shot in the dark. And he won a game against what was supposed to be a pretty decent defense, and he looked really good winning it. It wasn't just like I'm watching most of that game because I had to turn it off at some point, being depressed and all. I can only handle so much.
Right. You didn't want to hurt yourself.
But there was throws he was making that's just good quarterback play.
Yeah.
And a little bit bad defense, but mostly good quarterback play. So it's like, how bad is Trey Lance, where he was doing the Niners did not look good with him under the helm, I didn't feel like. And with Jimmy G and Brock Purdy or whatever his name is, he they looked really good still. And I mean, their defense is still insanely good by all means.
Yeah.
It was still getting pressure on Tom Brady, made him uncomfortable. Their defense looked amazing, but I was just more surprised at how well their offense looked with Mr. Irrelevant, who apparently is not so irrelevant.
Yeah, I know. I agree. And when they played the Dolphins, I thought like, so the Dolphins like intensified the pressure when Purdy came in. They all out blitzed, they hit him, and he was making throws that like a 10-year veteran would make like under pressure. You know what I'm saying? So I was really impressed with him. Now, to be fair to I almost call him Colin Kaepernick. I do that a lot. Trey Lance. To be fair to Trey Lance, is he's definitely was a more raw prospect, right? And he only played 3 games. He didn't play that many games, and he didn't have Christian McCaffrey. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think the more weapons you have, the easier it is on your quarterback to be okay, because you're not asking him to do as much as somebody. But I don't know how bad he is. I didn't think it was interesting though. I was under the impression as long as Trey Lance was their quarterback, they probably wouldn't have made the playoffs this year. So it might be like a blessing in disguise. My bigger question is, let's say Purdy has a really good run, and let's say if they make the NFC Championship or even the Super Bowl with Purdy, where do you go from here? Like, and let's say he's good. Do you look at trading Trey Lance, or like, what do you do? So I'm kind of interested in that, but I think that for this season, the 49ers are going to be okay and could still make a Super Bowl run. Yeah, you agree? Okay. What's your second thing you learned for?
Cowboys are a good team.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I know they've been good all year, but they did what good teams do. They had a bad game. They played terrible. They honestly, most of the game, they played terrible, but they won the game. They ended up beating a bad football team. You may question if there was a little intentional tanking by the Texans, but even then, still the Cowboys won. You can only play who's in front of you, and they did have a bad game, but they came out on top. So you have to give them credit, because nothing about that game said they should have won. I would love for the NFL to investigate the potential of intentional tanking by the Texans. I mean, I didn't watch the full game, but I seen a lot of it, and I'm just like, I still can't get over the Hail Mary. I know I was talking to you about it before.
Yeah.
And it didn't look like there was a Texan receiver within the vicinity of the ball thrown. Now, granted, I know it's a Hail Mary, and maybe they're playing off the tip or something like that, but you need to have at least one receiver in that jumble mess in that thing. I mean, for any chance of anything. Otherwise, well, guess what? It turns into an interception. So, but in the end, the Cowboys did what they should have done. They beat a bad team. Now, granted, barely, but they beat a bad team, and it counts as a win on their record. So they are looking like a pretty good team this year.
Yeah, like how you said good, though. I do think they're a good team. I don't know if they're a great team. Like, and I don't know if there's a great team in the NFC. You may be able to talk me into the Eagles because they throttle everybody they play that is a mediocre and that's what great teams do. Is they just throttle the people who are not in the same league as them. So you could maybe convince me the Eagles are like a great team, but I like good teams find ways to win. And when it's when you don't have your best game out there, like the Chiefs, even this week, they barely beat the Broncos. But you find ways to win even when you don't have your best stuff. So I'm with you on that. I like good team Cowboys. Yep. My second thing is the AFC playoff race for the last 2 playoff spots. I learned it's going to be a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be. So I thought last week, because of my hubris, obviously, as a Dolphin fan, I thought, okay, there's one spot left, and I think it's probably going to go to the Jets. That's what I felt like. But after this week, we now have 4 teams in this race: the Dolphins, Patriots, Chargers, and Jets. And if I predict right, every one of those teams at the end of next week will probably be 8-6, because the Dolphins have to play the Bills. I don't see that ending well for us. The Chargers... the Jets play the Lions. Now, I could see the Lions winning, but it's in New York, so I'm kind of giving it to the home team. And then the Patriots, they have the Raiders. So, the Raiders could win. But let's just say all these teams win. They're all going to be 8-6. That means 4 teams, last 2 playoff spots, all 8-6. 2 weeks ago, the Dolphins were ahead of the AFC East, and now it's looking like whether it's, especially as a Dolphin fan, I'm concerned about this because I thought we were going to get into the playoffs. We could miss the playoffs. We have the Jets, the Bills, the Patriots, and the Packers left. None of them, maybe the Packers are the easiest game out of those teams, and it's in Lambeau in the wintertime. So a little nervous, but yeah, the AFC playoff picture is going to be fun to watch that pan out more so, even though the NFC is still going to be kind of the same way, a little fickle. There's going to be a lot of movement. I'm more interested to see how the AFC plays out just because record wise, they're all like winning records.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of is like, is that like, I agree with that because I mean, the NFL was brilliant for putting division games as last games of the season when they did that, because this is what happens now. Now all these last games are extra meaningful against division rivals because it could decide the last playoff spots. And I feel like the last couple of years has been always a couple of the wild card spots have been decided by that game. And like, it's so funny with both East divisions. I mean, honestly, AFC and NFC East, how competitive overall their division is.
Yeah.
Like the Patriots have been, they won yesterday. The Dolphins have been good all year, and they kind of fell on a 2-game slide. But I think they'll be fine. That maybe not this week against the Bills, maybe, but I think they'll be fine overall. And the Jets were a surprise this year, and so it's like I think the Jets will come down to earth myself. But it's just like one of those things where it's like just it is really fun to watch the last couple weeks of football now because there's so much at stake. There's no clear wild card teams or anything like that anymore. And you never know what order it's going to be in. And it's been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. The parody is definitely fun. I agree. Yeah. Okay. What's your final thing you learned in week 14 of the NFL season?
I really wish the NFL would rethink division winners getting the home playoff game.
Okay.
I'm going to benefit it as a Buccaneer fan because most likely Tampa should win their division, but they very well could win that division at 7-10.
Yeah.
And the fact that they get to host the playoff game, and I get it. I get the flip side of the argument is that you win your division, you earn something. That's what you get for winning the division. I think what you should get is the playoff spot.
Yep.
Otherwise, I think seeding should be done by best record.
I agree.
Because as much like Tampa does not, if they win, no one in the NFC South deserves to have a host a playoffs game over. I don't like the Cowboys, but they've been playing better this year.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Giants if they get into the playoffs. They've been playing better this year. It's like there's so many teams that to me deserve that home playoff spot where I'm not saying Tampa or Carolina. The fact that all these teams are still in the fact that it could be either top 10 pick or division winner is not a good thing. I had that same issue when the Seahawks won their division and hosted a playoff game. Yeah, they won. I get it. They won their playoff game, but still, I just don't think it's fair that they host a playoff game because I think it should be you get into the playoffs, then seeding should be by record.
Agreed. I'm with you on that. You talked about two things that the NFL should change. Honestly, what it comes down to is you got to reward winning. Winning is what you should reward. Even the NBA has a problem with this because unless if you give teams incentives to win, then they're going to do things like tank. Unless if you reward winning, like you're talking about here. So yeah, as far as playoffs, even like, hey, if I have a better record than so-and-so, I should get the home field. Otherwise, and that makes the regular season, I think, more important as well. Yeah, if the Saints wouldn't have had a crazy collapse 2 weeks ago, every one of the teams in the NFC South would be 5-8 right now. Just think about that. And you're right. You should never. I cannot. You're right. Are you worried about what team are you most worried about in the NFC South catching up to the Bucs? Are you worried about any of them?
I'm always worried about the Saints.
Okay.
Always. Carolina actually have been
That's
playing
the
pretty
yeah,
decently,
that's
so
the one.
I'm not worried about the Falcons. Um, Saints is just be flashbacks, whatever you want to call it. It's just the Saints have been the Bucks thorn in
PTSD.
their side. Yeah, yeah, and so that's all. They haven't really done much to show it, but the Panthers have been playing pretty good.
Yeah, that's
Um,
the team I'd be worried about too. Yeah.
and again, you know, kudos for the NFL making that last, couple games division stuff because that makes I see like four scenarios where Tampa could lose and not where Carolina gets to win or the Falcons could still win the division. I mean, the issue though I have with that whole thing is that like the Falcons, the Saints, the Bucks and the Panthers all could win the division, yes, but all three teams, if they lose out, could be drafting top 10 next year.
Yeah.
It's not like the NFC East where it's like, oh my gosh, like it's all above 500 competitiveness. No, it's all below 500 competitiveness.
Right.
That's just disgusting. I mean, like that's not how it should work. And yeah, I'm a Buccaneer fan. I really want Tampa in the playoffs, kinda, just so we can get Trouts in round one, and that way I can say we made it to the playoffs. But like honestly, how good is it gonna feel? Like, I mean, maybe I'm not the average Bucks fan here, but if we win the division, does it feel good? Doesn't feel good to me right now. We're sitting on top of division, and we just got blown out by Mr. Irrelevant, who again not so Mr. Irrelevant, but we just got blown out by him. It wasn't even competitive.
Yeah.
Like that, it's so depressing. So it's not like what do you got pride that you win the division of? Sorry, you're the best of the worst teams. Congratulations.
No, that's true. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. 100%. Last thing I learned, and this is more of a Dolphins take, but I think the Tua versus Herbert debate is stupid. That's what I learned. I know why it's a debate because one was picked right before the other. But I just want to clarify something, okay? Tua was the right pick in that draft. Okay. And the reason why he was the right pick is because everybody that I followed and, like listened to had Tua going before Herbert. We did not see this guy that Herbert is in college. There was no way of knowing that this is the kind of quarterback he was going to be. The only reason why there was any doubt on Tua was health concerns, right? That was the only reason. Everybody's like, he's got the head. He's good at anticipating. He's accurate. Okay. But so I don't like that we do this revisionist history thing with Tua, like, oh, they should have took Justin Herbert before Tua. It's like very few people thought that. Now, the second part of this is Herbert's been the better quarterback, and it hasn't been close, okay? Statistically, you can make the argument that Tua has been a really good quarterback, but statistics without context means nothing to me. Context is so important. So personally, I like Tua. He's a good quarterback, but I think he has a clear ceiling. Herbert makes ridiculous throws that I don't see Tua make. Okay. like what he does on the run, what he does to escape pressure, what he does with his arm talent is beyond what Tua is capable of. He doesn't have the limits that Tua does. So although I like Tua and like he could be a Matt Ryan type quarterback, or he also could be like a Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff type of quarterback, or an Andy Dalton type of quarterback where like if you put enough around him, he's going to look really good. But if everything starts to kind of fall apart around him, he's going to kind of fall apart. That's the type of quarterback I see Tua as right now. Okay. Herbert is the type of quarterback that makes his team better because they had no business to me beating the Dolphins on Sunday night. It was only because of Tua kind of playing bad again, having another bad game. And it was because that defense, Herbert was able to make incredible throws. So that's why. And that's the only, obviously to me, I just think he's a better quarterback talent wise. I don't understand why there's even a debate.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a confusing one to me because, like you said, before the draft, heck, before Tua got injured in college, I remember the phrase "tank for Tua,"
Yep.
as in he was considered a number 1 overall pick, not just first round, but number 1 overall pick. That's what people thought of his talent.
Yep.
Burrow came out of nowhere. No one was talking about Joe Burrow. Well, maybe somebody was, but I don't pay that close attention to college football. But
Very few.
It was sure the heck well, I didn't hear about it. That's for sure. But when it came to the pick, I thought the Dolphins made the correct pick because he was supposed to be the number 1 overall quarterback, and the only thing that scared people was his injury, which it was a pretty big injury.
Yep.
But even looking at them now, okay, yes, Tua is the type of quarterback that if you have talented players around him, he will get you places because he's not going to cost you the game. Herbert is the type of quarterback that's going to win you that game.
Yep.
No matter what is around him, because he can make these throws that's just like, and not on this level, clarify everybody before they say that, but like Patrick Mahomes makes throws that you're just like, what do you do? Oh, yep, that's what you're doing right there. I mean, that it's the same basic principle with that, but don't compare them. They're in 2 different situations, 2 different things. I get it that they're back to back, but it's 2 different type of quarterbacks. Clearly, yeah. I believe Herbert's a more talented quarterback. That's not in question, but Tua can win. Tua will be just fine. Heck, I think the Dolphins overall will be just fine because, well, I mean, yes, current history with their new head coach, not past history, but if you look at since Mike McDaniel's been the coach, generally speaking, Tua's been playing great. The team's been playing great. They had a bad couple games.
Yep.
But that happens.
Yeah.
It's the NFL. You never know who's going to win any given day. I mean, how many of us really, well, I mean, I guess Vegas odds, I think, had the Lions over the Vikings this week.
Yeah, but it was just by like 1 point. It was like
yeah.
Yeah,
but how many of us would have still been like, yeah, the Lions are going to beat the Vikings? I mean, I'm sure, again, I know there's people out there that would have said that, but I wouldn't have said that with like so guaranteed by any means. You never know. The NFL is a weird thing where it's just like every couple of weeks something happened. The next week, I believe the Dolphins will be just fine overall with Tua as the quarterback. I get some people would say they would be better with Justin Herbert right now. But hey, if you guys got the ability to look in the future for the draft, go to the NFL because they could use some people that can know the future.
Yeah, right.
I don't know it.
it's to me, it's revisionist history is all it is. So like, there's two parts of the argument. Oh, they should have drafted Herbert over Tua. It's like nobody, like there was very few, if anybody, who even suggested that. And the only reason why was because of the injury concerns. That's the only reason why. Okay. And then now it's like, oh, because he was a better player. It's like, no, don't be that guy. But Herbert is definitely, like, Dolphin fans, I love Tua. I think he's going to be fine. But like, we don't have the better quarterback of the 2 either. So let's just settle down.
Okay. I don't think it's much of a debate. I mean, I personally think Herbert's a better quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't know why people would think otherwise. Tua is maybe okay. Here we go. Tua is more accurate than Herbert. There we go. But
if you watch,
but that's about it.
Yeah.
It's not. But that's not saying Herbert's not accurate.
Right.
Herbert is very accurate.
Yeah.
If you can throw the ball 90 yards down the field.
Yeah, if you tell Chargers fans that, though, after watching Sunday Night Football, they'd be like, Tua's not accurate at all, which is a fair argument. But I would say yes. If you had a Madden rating, I would have Tua's accuracy higher than Herbert's, but it would be like 95 to like 91 or 95 to 89. It's not that much different. Again, just watch the guys play, and you can tell, like, okay, Herbert's a better, like, there was that throw he made against Kansas City. I think it was week 2 of the NFL season, where as he's getting hit, it was like a 50-yard laser on point to the guy running downfield, and he caught it. Tua will never ever make that pass. Never. He broke. I think that was the play where as he was throwing as he got hit, and I think it broke his ribs, or he had a rib fracture after that. But like, Tua will never make that throw. He doesn't have the arm talent for it.
Well, take away the zero, he might. A 5-yard pass.
Yeah. He might be able to do a 5-yard laser, and he's done that. Like, he's been able to make accurate throws while being hit, but it's not at the same level. So, last thing I learned about Week 14. Erik, anything else?
I was just going to say that the Lions look really good, just because I do like talking about them. I know they're not my favorite team, but I gotta cheer for someone right now because Tampa's they're not doing well. But I just love the fact that the Lions look so good against a pretty good defense, and they did pretty good on slowing down. They didn't slow down Justin Jefferson, but they slowed down the Vikings overall. And I thought they looked, and Adrian Hutchinson looked really, Aiden Hutchinson looks really good right now.
Yeah, since they switched up their defensive scheme, so they like looked at that at the bye week, and it seems like Hutchinson is now being put in the best position to succeed. But the offense looks good as long as Brown and Swift are healthy, which they've always looked good all season. They averaged like 35 points when those two people are on the field together, by the way. I thought it would be one more offseason. I thought but there's two teams just to keep an eye out for. Lions to get to the playoffs because they still can get into the playoffs. And the other team is the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they could end up getting into the playoffs. What?
Luke, that's for you.
Yeah, that's for you. Well, we talked about this on our way back home from Michigan the other weekend. They played the Titans twice. If you beat the Titans twice, all you need is the Titans to lose one extra game than the Jaguars, and the Jaguars will get into the playoffs by winning the AFC South. So watch out for the Jaguars the next couple of weeks as well. They'll probably lose this week. They have the Cowboys, but after that, I think they have two easy teams where the Titans have to play, I think, both the Cowboys and the Chargers coming up. So if they lose those two games, it's going to come down to, I think, that week 18 matchup against the Jaguars in Jacksonville. So we will see how that works.
I just looked at the rest of the Titans schedule, and they got the Chargers this week, sorry.
Yeah.
The Texans, which should be a win.
Right.
The Cowboys, and then the Jaguars.
Yep.
And then the Jaguars, just curiosity's sake, is going against Cowboys this week, Jets, Texans, and Jaguars. Well, sorry, Titans. So it's very possible if they can beat them twice. I mean, but then again, I'll go back to complaining about divisions again. I don't know if people want to hear that ever again.
Well, no, it would be more. That just means the topic's more relevant because there's two divisions where you're rewarding a team with a losing record for a home game. So
yeah. Again, I think they should get the playoffs. Just want to make sure that's clear. I do think they should get something for winning the division, but I just don't think they should get a home playoff game. I
agree. Okay. Thanks everybody for listening. We're going to try to do this weekly, so hopefully it works out. So that's what we learned from week 14. There was only supposed to be 3 topics, but obviously we hit on a couple more. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you like the video, and also subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to listen to our podcast, search NuttieBuddie Sports wherever you listen to podcasts, and we will talk to you guys next time.